1 minute warning, 1 minute warning. All right, we'll call this special general committee meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Councillor Crowley and Councillor Duguay do send their regrets. Clerk, do we have
with the uncertainty in the economy because of the having a provincial and a federal election, and then all the changes in the states, when people don't feel confident in making a big purchase and taking on that risk, and the Bank of Canada is tightening up because many of those mortgages that were taken out, in 2020 that are coming due, it's really hard to get money lent out to get a mortgage. It's the builders are having a hard time getting money lent out to go forward with projects. And if no one's able to buy a house, then the builders can't build because the bank won't give them money. And when it costs too much, because their development charges went up 50%, then they can't build.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reel. Councillor Baldwin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Rebecca, thanks for being here. My question was about the 7 housing starts too. There's 2 in my ward on Autonomy Drive that have one's completed, still sitting there. I suspect it's sitting there because it's grossly overpriced for our particular neighborhood.
That one was supposed to be a triplex that didn't get approved because the bylaw wasn't updated.
I don't know about that, but I'm telling you, that house is not worth $1.2 million. That's why it's sitting there. But it was constructed. The other one is just finished, or I'm almost looking for occupancy. Does the figure 7, does that include condominium building, apartment buildings, or is that just single family residential? I found 7 was a really, given that I have 2 in my immediate area, really low.
This is just from January to the end of June.
Yeah.
So the one on Autonomy that's finished, that was finished last year, so it would have been reflected in last year's housing start numbers.
Okay.
The permits it's not necessarily like for apartments. Sometimes it counts the units, number of units, and sometimes it counts the buildings. On CMHC, it counts the building. So if there was one apartment building that is 50 units, it would say 1 on CMHC, but then the building stats from the building department here would show that how many units are in it.
That makes some sense to me. I'm just trying to get my head around
The timeline makes the stats hard.
7, right?
Yeah.
And through the chair, are there any more in the queue for this year? Aside from the 7, are they full stop, or are the builders just doing renovations now?
They're building different municipalities. There's some apartments that are in different processes, different, I guess, stages of planning, but I'm not sure when they're coming online.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Mayor Leal?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Rebecca, for your presentation. Bill 17, which continues to work itself through, and there will be the regulations associated with that bill. Based on your experience, one of the elements of Bill 17 is when development charges should be paid, whether it should be upfront or the time of the occupancy permit. I would just like to get your view on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. As I said when I spoke in December, having the opportunity to pay development charges at occupancy greatly helps with the builder's cash flow and ability to plan around building, because the builder does not get paid until occupancy. There is a deposit which they need to use to pay for all the materials, and then the mortgage payments start coming in at occupancy. So yes, it is a great help for builders, which is why our Ontario Home Builder Association, which is connected with the PKHBA, lobbied to have that changed at the provincial level.
Sorry, I was reading an article in the National Post. The federal government, I understand, is contemplating bringing back the MERB, which was in the Tax Act during the 70s and the 80s, and then it was eliminated. It's the multi-unit residential building tax provision. Do you have any thoughts on that, to again have that as a stimulative part of tax policy for multi-unit residential building?
I'm actually not familiar with what that tax option is for MERBs.
My understanding is it accelerated write-offs to encourage the building to happen.
I mean, as the city may know, with when you guys do, there have been different CIPs in the past where the taxes are less when things are developed. It's seen mostly downtown with infill development and around commercial properties. And that is a way to encourage property owners or builders to take on a new project because the tax rate stays lower, even though it's been updated. But I don't know specifically about the MERB that you.
Yeah, I think the target audience for the MERV is to have more multi-residential development to prevent people from buying single-family homes and turning them into rental accommodation, to preserve single-family homes for people that want to get into that market.
Well, we do need all types of housing. The part of what I know the city is working on with the community planning permit system is to relax zoning bylaws to allow more types of housing. When there is a focus on single family housing, it doesn't provide other options for students, which we have a lot of, or seniors that need to downsize in this community. And so it is anything that can help have all types of housing. As you know, on Lily Lake, there's a whole bunch of townhouses being built, and there is a history when you walk through the city of a lot of subdivisions with townhouses and fourplexes and that, and having those options is what will help restore affordability.
Thanks so much, and we do appreciate the work you do in your leadership capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Any further questions? Rebecca, thanks so much for being here and all your work.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, our next registered delegation is Murray Davenport of MJ Davenport and Associates. Mr. Davenport, welcome. Good to see you. If you could kindly give us your address, and the floor is yours.
My address is 169 Lansdowne Street East in Peterborough. Chairman Beamer, Mayor Leal, members of council. Hampson prepared an amended development charges citywide background study, reducing the charge from approximately $70,000 to $68,000. This change is a step in the right direction. However, it is a baby step. The city of Peterborough increased the citywide development charge from approximately $34,000 to $70,000 over a 3-year period. It wasn't 50%, it was double. The proposed $2,000 reduction is laughable. Development charges are a trust fund agreement between the developer and the municipality, where growth pays for the cost of growth. The Development Charges Act was implemented decades ago, and the home building industry has funded the trust fund agreement faithfully ever since. There are currently 47 Development Charge Act appeals to the Ontario Land Tribunal, dating back as far as the year 2021. And those appeals are still in effect. That number includes the City of Peterborough citywide development charge passed in 2024. Obviously, there is a province-wide issue with development charges being determined by the two firms that prepare these reports, CN Watson and Hampson. CN Watson and Hampson have discovered a method to grow their firms, and that growth is paid for by the home building industry through the Development Charges Fund. The basic problem with the City of Peterborough charge is that the report is based on the city's asset management plan. The Hampson amended report has determined that the City of Peterborough will spend $1.94 billion upgrading services related to the highways and sewage services by the year 2051, the planning horizon for the new city official plan. That translates to the City of Peterborough spending an average of $71.9 million per year reconstructing the services listed in the amended development charges. So what fund does the City of Peterborough budget proposed for upgrading services in the year 2026? 71 million? How about 10, 15 million? We are certain that the proposed budget does not include $71 million for these expenditures. The province of Ontario has filed Bill 17, the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act, to speed up the construction of new housing. When passed, the bill will change the time when home builders are required to pay development charges from the building permit stage to the closing of the home purchase and sale agreement, or at the time of the occupancy issued by the local chief building official. This change makes complete sense, as a home builder does not have to fund the development charges upon building permit issuance. Interest charges and real estate fees will not be added to the development charges paid by a home purchaser. Yes, Councillor Duguay, he's not here. We believe that the development charges fund in part the reconstruction of Park Hill Road West. We also believe that the development charges paid a portion of the design error that became obvious with surface water draining over the new road. We also believe that development charges will fund the installation of a sanitary sewer force main down the center line of Park Hill Road from Braley Drive to Wallace Road at such time as a sewage pumping station is built to service those lands west of Chandler Crescent. CMHC reports that the home building industry obtained building permits to build 7 housing units. That's including all housing units, apartments included, in the city of Peterborough in the first 6 months of the year 2025. At this rate, the city of Peterborough will never meet its stated goal of 4,700 housing units. You cannot solve the funding problem by killing the goose that lays the golden egg. We recommend that the city revisit the citywide development charge and apply a reasonable annual increase based on the 30% development charge that existed 3 years ago. The province of Ontario and the city of Peterborough needs housing. All housing sectors must contribute towards the cost of upgrading the services downstream.
You can just wrap up, Mr. Davenport.
I will. Of each individual development. City ratepayers must pay the citywide development charges applicable to affordable housing units. Housing units created within the central business district must pay the citywide development charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murray. Appreciate that. Questions, Councillor Hickey?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Davenport, nice to see you again. I'll ask you the same question I asked Rebecca, and I know that you're in the building business. How long to build a single family home? From permit to occupancy, if everything went smooth?
Back in the good days, it took 2 months.
2 months. So today?
Today, about 4 or 5.
Okay.
If it's a custom house, it could be 6 or 7 easily.
Okay, fair enough. So through you, Mr. Chair, my next question, Murray, and you may not be able to answer it right away, is if we reduced the development charges by 30%, which is roughly $20,000 in today's environment, how many homes do you think could be built beyond the 7? And I know I'm asking for your expertise here, which I know you have a lot.
You're in the real estate game.
I know.
So you know as well as
I don't do residential. I just do commercial.
Okay, but you're in the game. You know the game.
Right.
Today, a new house costs $1 million plus. That means that there's a certain segment of society that cannot afford a new house. The way that the housing industry works is if entry-level people come in and buy the cheaper houses in the $300,000 to $400,000 or $500,000 range, which is becoming a place today, and then they bumps people up the ladder to the point where they can buy the new house that we built. The industry has broken down. It's largely due to, in my mind, speculators getting into the market 2 or 3 years ago, or 3, whatever it was, But the speculators got into the market. They bought up housing units that raised the value of the house beyond purchase available or purchase ability. Interest rates went up accordingly, and the market died. It died in 1981 as well. It died in 1990 for the same reasons. In 81, it was more of an interest rate problem. So we have to work our way through this. But by taking and doubling development charges, all you're doing is sending a message to the home building industry that you don't want our business. We employ a lot of people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hickey. Any further questions? Councillor Baldwin?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Murray, thanks for being here. I harken back to 1981, which is when I bought my first house. We assumed a first mortgage at 9%, got a second mortgage on the property at 15.75, paid $45,000 for the house. So something's gone askew. But we're here to talk about development charges. So you said we went up from 34K to 70K. That was the proposal.
Over a 3-year period.
3 years. And we took that report from Hemson. In your professional opinion, Murray, what do you think the sweet spot would be? Is it an inflationary increase each year over the next 5 to 10 years, or just you're looking for something much less than 70? 34 is the ceiling. Are we looking maybe $50,000? I think that was what you're suggesting, Councillor Hickey, around that. Just again, looking for your expertise. I know you've been in the business a long time.
It's a game. It's a game. But quite frankly, the city budget, you were trying to hit 7%. Fine.
Yeah.
But start at $34,000, not at 70.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baldwin. Any further questions?
I'd
Mr.
like to answer
Davenport?
another question.
Yeah, of course.
3 years ago, the bank told us that there is no funding for new development projects. Okay? And it's going to take 2 to 3 years to work our way through that system. You and I know about the personal mortgages that had to be rewritten, but we don't know about the commercial and the residential. Like take a look at Toronto. You've got speculators have bought 500 square foot condominiums in stories, 30-story value buildings. Are they going bankrupt today? Probably. Because nobody can afford to carry that kind of stuff.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all you do in our community.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, colleagues. I think we do have Stefan on the line for the presentation. Stefan, can you hear me?
I can, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. I can hear you. Thank you for being here this evening, and you're welcome to present your presentation.
Well, thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman. I'm just sharing my screen now. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. I will be brief. My name is Stefan Krzeczynowicz, and I'm a partner at Hemson Consulting, and I've been retained to assist city staff with updating the city's citywide development charges bylaw, which you've just heard about from the delegates. I've been assisting the city with development charge matters for about 6 years now. Tonight's meeting is a public meeting which is held under the Development Charges Act. And up until very recently, the Act required the city to hold such a meeting prior to passing or updating or amending a development charges bylaw, which is what is on the table for council to consider. And so the meeting requirements have all been met. An amended version of the background study was released on June the 10th. This is an amended version of the study that was released last September. And then the appropriate notice of the meeting went out in the Peterborough Examiner in July, and a draft version of the bylaw with the amendments included was released on July the 22nd. I do want to note that the recent enactment of Bill 17 in June means that if this council wishes to further reduce its development charges during the term of this citywide bylaw, then in the future it will no longer need to undertake a background study or hold a public meeting such as this one. So the purpose of the amended study and bylaw is to reduce the development charges that were implemented by council on December the 2nd last, to reflect updated costs arising from the sanitary sewer master plan, which council approved in early June, and additional grant funding which the city's received for a number of roads projects. And so as you've heard, and I'm sure aware, these two changes have the effect of reducing the costs eligible for development charge funding for sanitary sewer and roads services. All of the other elements in the background study from last September have remained unchanged, including all the rates for the other services. So this just summarizes the changes to the costs for you. There's sort of three tables here, one in green, one in red, one in gold. The green one shows you the costs that were included in the September 2024 background study. And you can see that the total cost of the services related to a highway, which is the roads program, and the sewage services is just over $2 billion. No grants were identified to fund those costs, and just over 50% of them were considered to be eligible for development charge funding. About $950 million related to development up to 2051, which is the planning horizon in your official plan, and then about just over 100,000 attributable to development post 2051, which was not included in the development charge. And then in the red table, you'll see the changes to those costs that are in the amended study. And the two changes can be seen in the gross cost of the sewage services, which has come down by about $64 million, and the grants for the roads services related to a highway, which now reflects the grant funding of $21.6 million. And then the overall impact is shown in the gold table. If you look at the bottom of the third column of figures there, it effectively, these changes reduce the capital costs that are included in the development charge rate calculations by about $55 million. So this is what happens to the residential development charges. This is for a single detached unit in the city, and you can see the list of services for which the city imposes the citywide charge on the left there. And then the first column of figures shows you the $71,000 charge that Mr. Davenport referred to for a single detached unit. About 70% of that charge is for roads and sewer services. And then the second column of figures shows you the adjusted charge, reduced to $68,500 per unit, and all of the adjustments, again, related to the roads and the sewage services. The overall impact is to reduce the overall charge by about 3%. And then on the non-residential side, the city imposes a charge per square meter of new floor area of building. And the current charge is $268.61 per square meter. Again, the vast majority, about 88% of that charge, is for roads and sewage services. And the adjustment would reduce that charge by just over $11 a square meter, or around 4%. So given that the greater share of the charge on the non-res side is devoted to the roads and sewer, the overall reduction is a little bit higher on the non-residential side, 4%, than it is on the residential side, which is 3%. So tonight is an opportunity to hear from the public, including the delegations that you just heard from, on these proposed changes. My understanding is that a staff report will be presented at the August 25th General Committee meeting on this matter, with a view to bringing the changes for consideration and by council and passage of an updated bylaw on September the 2nd. And if passed in its current form, the new reduced charges would take effect immediately. There will still be a new appeal period for the changes for 40 days after the bylaw is passed. But after that, the bylaw is protected from any kind of appeal for its 10-year term. Just one final note, Mr. Chairman, is that council's under no obligation under the Development Charges Act to make these changes. But certainly the changes would better align the city's development charges with what we now know about the city's growth-related capital spending needs. So that concludes my presentation, and of course I'm happy to answer questions members of the public or members of council may have.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation and all your work. So any questions of the presenter? We're seeing none. So again, thank you so much to you and your team. So colleagues, we do have a recommendation in front of us, essentially just received for information. We will be making a final decision on this in August. This is just received for information. So any comments? Mayor Leal?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mr. Chair. When the report comes forward on August 25th, that we'll chat about the bylaw. One of the things, if we could get some commentary in that report, is whether we should seriously take a look at putting a moratorium on the CPI increase on January 1st, 2026, January 1st, 2027, January 1st, 2028, January 1st, 2029, and January 1st, 2030. The reason I think that needs to be looked at, first of all, the Ontario government has provided a housing target that runs till 2031. Their target across the province is 1,500,000 new homes over that period. Our target over that period, of course, is 47,000 new homes to be constructed. There are a series of things that are happening in the economy that are going to have, I believe, significant impact on the home building industry. I'm sure any of us that have taken the time to read the Bank of Canada report that came out from Governor Mecklin last week certainly looks at his prognostications about the economy and his observation that we're in a kind of a stand-pat period in terms of bank rate and going forward economic conditions related to the 3 T's: Trump's, tariff, turmoil. And we do know that in 2026, NAFTA 2 will be up for renegotiation, and it's not out of the realms of possibilities that the president may decide just to frankly blow up NAFTA 2, which would lead to some increased economic uncertainty. And just late last week, the home building industry of Canada released a pretty significant report with regards to the impact both of tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs here in Canada and the downward pressure that is putting on the building industry. So we don't have the fiscal capacity to reduce development charges significantly. So I think we can look at the annual CPI increases on a go-forward basis during this period of economic uncertainty, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Leal. Any further comments? All right, moved by Mayor Leal, received for information. We'll take a vote and describe. And that is carried. Motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Vassiliadis. We'll take a vote. That is carried, and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock for a general committee. Thanks, everyone.